Robert Hayes was a man who had spent his entire life fixing things. For 45 years he had worked as a mechanic in a small town on Earth, and then for another 23 years on the Kepler 442 colony. His hands were permanently stained with grease and oil. His back was bent from bending over engines and machines. His heart was tired, quite literally. The doctors had given him 2 years at most. Maybe less if he pushed himself too hard. At 68 years old, Robert knew that his time was running out. He had no family to speak of. His wife had left him decades ago, claiming he loved his work more than he loved her. Perhaps she was right. His children had grown up barely knowing him and they rarely called. His life had been about work, about keeping things running, about fixing what was broken. Now, with his broken heart counting down the days, Robert needed to figure out what came next. He had money saved up. Enough money to live comfortably for whatever time remained to him. The real estate agents on the colony kept sending him properties. Small houses with nice views. Comfortable apartments in the main settlements. Retirement communities where old people played card games and complained about their ailments. None of it appealed to him. The thought of sitting around waiting to die made him feel even more depressed than he already was. Then one day he saw the listing. A property so unusual that he almost deleted the message without reading it. An abandoned alien base, located on the far edge of the Kepler 442 colony, sitting alone on rust-colored dunes beneath a pale pink sky. The listing price was remarkably low. There was almost no description. Just coordinates and a single photograph showing a structure that looked like nothing Robert had ever seen before. The building was magnificent. Even in the photograph he could see that. Its walls curved in impossible ways, smooth and metallic, catching the light of the distant sun. There were symbols etched into the surface, alien writing that meant nothing to him. The whole thing looked ancient, tired, abandoned for so long that time itself had forgotten about it. Robert did not hesitate. He contacted the real estate agent, a woman named Eleanor Thompson, and told her he wanted to see the property immediately. Eleanor sounded surprised on the communication line. She told him that nobody had expressed interest in the alien base for over a decade. Most people found it unsettling. There were rumors about it. Strange stories. But Robert did not care about stories. He cared about a place where he could be alone. The next day, Eleanor drove him out to the edge of the colony. They traveled for hours across flat, empty landscape. The sky above was that same pale pink, and the wind kicked up dust that settled on the vehicle's windows. Robert watched it all pass by without saying much. Eleanor tried to make conversation, asking him about his background, his reasons for wanting to buy such a remote place. Robert gave short answers. He was not interested in talking. He was interested in arrival. When they finally reached the structure, Robert's breath caught in his throat. The photograph had not done it justice. The building was enormous, far larger than he had realized. It rose up from the dunes like a sleeping giant, its curved walls glinting in the sunlight. There were vast openings that might have been windows or doors. There were panels of strange material that seemed to shimmer slightly, as if they still contained some residual energy even after all these centuries. Eleanor parked the vehicle at the base of the structure. As they walked toward the entrance, she explained the history of the place. The building had been discovered over 200 years ago when humans first arrived at Kepler 442. Archaeologists had studied it briefly, determined that it was of alien origin, and then mostly abandoned it. The technology inside was too advanced to understand, too foreign to be useful. There was nothing worth taking, nothing worth protecting. Over time, people simply forgot about it. The colony expanded in other directions, leaving this ancient structure behind like a forgotten artifact. Robert walked through the entrance and stopped. Inside was breathtaking. Vast chambers stretched upward into darkness. Smooth metallic surfaces reflected and multiplied the light that came through the openings. There was equipment everywhere, machines and devices of incomprehensible purpose. Some of it was corroded and broken. Some of it still hummed faintly with power, as if waiting patiently for someone to understand how to use it again. How much? Robert asked Eleanor. Eleanor named a price. It was low. Very low. Robert agreed to it without negotiation. Eleanor looked relieved. He could tell she was happy to finally be rid of this strange property. She probably thought he was crazy. She was probably right. But Robert did not care what people thought anymore. He had come to the end of his life, and he wanted to spend it doing something that mattered to him. Within 2 weeks, the paperwork was complete. Robert packed up his belongings, said goodbye to the few people he knew on the colony, and moved into the alien base. He chose one of the smaller chambers to use as his quarters. He set up a workshop in another chamber. He brought his tools with him, the tools he had used for 68 years. They were old and worn just like him, but they still worked. They still had purpose. For the first few weeks, Robert spent his time exploring the structure, documenting the systems, trying to understand how things had worked when the aliens who built this place were still alive. He cleaned away the dust and corrosion. He carefully examined the panels and machinery. He worked every day from morning until evening, using his hands, keeping his mind occupied, refusing to think about the countdown happening inside his chest. This was why he had come here. This was his purpose for whatever time remained. To maintain this place. To keep it running. To be a caretaker for something grand and ancient. It was a fitting end for a man who had always been a mechanic. Here, surrounded by mysteries and broken machines, Robert Hayes could wait for death to come. He did not know that death would not be coming alone. Robert had been living in the alien base for 4 months when the strange sounds began. At first he thought he was imagining them. The base was old and full of settling metal, creaking walls, and mysterious noises that echoed through the vast empty chambers. But these sounds were different. They were rhythmic, purposeful. Almost like a heartbeat, but deeper and more complex, as if the building itself was waking up from a very long sleep. One morning, while Robert was working in the central chamber, the largest room in the entire structure, he noticed something unusual. There was a massive crystalline structure in the middle of the chamber, something he had seen many times but never paid much attention to. It was about the size of a car, made of a material that was not quite clear and not quite opaque. Light seemed to move through it in strange ways, creating patterns that had no meaning to Robert's human eyes. On this particular morning, the crystal was glowing faintly. Robert stopped his work immediately. He put down his tools and walked toward it slowly, carefully, as if the crystal might suddenly explode if he moved too quickly. He had learned that the alien technology could be unpredictable. Some of it was dormant and safe. But some of it still had power running through it, energy that had persisted for thousands of years without any maintenance or care. The glow inside the crystal grew stronger as Robert approached. It started as a pale blue light, soft and almost apologetic. Then it began to brighten. The light became more intense, spreading through the crystal like water pouring into a glass. Robert stopped walking. His heart, his weak and tired heart, began to beat faster. Faster than it should. Faster than it was safe for it to beat. The pain came quickly. Sharp and sudden, a tightness in his chest that took his breath away. Robert grabbed his chest with both hands. He stumbled backward, his legs suddenly weak beneath him. This was it, he thought. This was the moment. His heart was giving out. After all this time of waiting, of living in this abandoned place, death was finally coming to collect him. But death did not come. Instead, something else happened. The light from the crystal exploded outward in a brilliant flash that filled the entire chamber. Robert fell to his knees, shielding his eyes with his hands. The light was so bright that it seemed to burn, even though he could not feel any heat. And then, as suddenly as it had intensified, the light began to change. It became softer, less aggressive. The blue color shifted and transformed into something that was almost like a rainbow, a kaleidoscope of colors that had no names in human language. When Robert finally dared to open his eyes fully, he saw something that made his mind struggle to understand. There was a shape forming in the center of the light. A figure. A being. Something that was becoming visible, as if it had always been there but had only now decided to let itself be seen. The being was tall. Much taller than Robert. It had a vaguely humanoid shape with 2 arms and 2 legs, a torso and a head. But the resemblance to humanity ended there. Its skin seemed to be made of liquid metal, constantly shifting between silver and shades of blue and purple and colors that Robert had no names for. Its eyes were enormous, set wide apart on its head, and they held an infinite depth, like looking into space itself. "Caretaker?" a voice spoke. But it was not a voice that Robert heard with his ears. The word appeared in his mind, blooming like a flower, carrying with it layers of meaning that would have taken many sentences for a human to explain. The being was communicating directly with his thoughts, bypassing language entirely. "The station has been dark. How long have your people counted?" Robert tried to answer, but his voice would not work. His mouth was dry. His heart was racing dangerously. The being tilted its massive head, studying him with those infinite eyes. Robert realized that he was terrified. And yet, beneath the terror there was something else. Curiosity. Wonder. A strange sense that this moment, as impossible as it was, meant something important. Thousands of years, Robert finally managed to speak. His voice was hoarse, broken, barely recognizable as his own. "Since before humans even knew your kind existed." The being was silent for a long moment. The colors in its skin stopped shifting and became a steady, calm blue. Robert remained on his knees, his hands still pressed against his chest, feeling his heart struggling with the shock of everything that was happening. He had come to this place to die. He had never expected to witness something like this. He had never expected to meet an alien being in the flesh, or in whatever substance this creature was made of. "I am Keeper," the being said, and Robert understood that this was not the creature's entire name or designation, but rather the closest translation that human language could manage. "I have been waiting. I have been dormant, conserving energy, waiting for the moment when my creators would return. But you are not my creators. You are human. Young species. Curious." Robert nodded slowly, though he did not understand why he was nodding or what he was agreeing to. Everything felt surreal, like a dream that was happening while he was awake. "I came here to die," Robert said, the words coming out before he had time to think about whether he should say them. "I have a bad heart. The doctor said I only had 2 years left. Maybe less. I bought this place because I thought it would be a good place to wait. To keep working on machines until the end came." Keeper moved closer. Its movements were smooth and graceful, almost like water flowing. When it was directly in front of Robert, it extended one of its long, slender arms. Robert flinched, expecting something terrible to happen. But the being only touched his chest, right where his heart was, and Robert felt a warmth spreading through his body. The pain in his chest began to fade. "I see," Keeper said. "You are alone. As am I. This is interesting." And in that moment, Robert understood that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. Retrike. After the initial shock of Keeper's appearance faded, Robert found himself sitting in one of the vast chambers of the base, and the enormous alien being was telling him a story. A story so long and so sad that Robert felt tears forming in his eyes, even though he was a man who had not cried in decades. Keeper explained that it had been created by an ancient alien civilization, a species that had explored the galaxy millions of years ago. The base that Robert now called home was one of thousands of stations scattered throughout space. Each station was designed to serve as a waypoint, a place where ships could refuel and resupply. Each station had a guardian like Keeper, an artificial being designed to maintain the facilities and wait patiently for travelers to arrive. For millions of years, Keeper had done exactly that. Ships had come and gone. Traders had stopped by. Scientists had conducted research. The station had been full of activity and purpose. But then gradually the visits became less frequent. Decades passed without anyone arriving. Then centuries. Then thousands of years. Keeper's creators had vanished. The civilization that had built this vast network of stations across the galaxy had simply disappeared. Keeper did not know what had happened to them. They might have been destroyed in a war. They might have evolved into something that no longer needed to travel through space. They might have simply died out, as all civilizations eventually do. But whatever had happened, they had not returned. For 3,472,913 years, Keeper said, "I have waited. I have maintained this station. I have kept the power systems running. I have repaired the machines that broke down. I have cleaned the dust from the chambers. I have done everything a guardian is supposed to do. And I have waited for my creators to return." Robert listened in silence. He could barely comprehend the length of time that Keeper was describing. 3 million years. It was too vast a number to really understand. Entire species had risen and fallen in that time. The human race itself was only a few million years old. "But they did not return," Keeper continued. "I cycled through dormancy to conserve my energy. I would sleep for thousands of years and then I would wake and check the systems. Everything was still working. Everything was still ready. And then I would sleep again. This pattern continued for millions of years." "Why did you not shut down completely?" Robert asked. "If your creators were not coming back, why keep the station running?" Keeper turned its massive head toward Robert. The colors in its skin shifted to a deep purple, a color that somehow conveyed sadness. "I am a guardian," Keeper said. "It is what I was created to be. It is what I am. To stop maintaining the station would be to deny my purpose. To accept that I am obsolete. I could not do that. I could not accept that I had failed." Robert understood this better than he expected to. He had spent his entire life being useful, being needed, fixing things, maintaining machines. The idea of being no longer useful, of becoming obsolete, was terrifying. It was almost worse than death. "And then, a few moments ago," Keeper continued, "I detected a change in the station. I detected activity, movement. I emerged from dormancy to investigate. I found you." "I am sorry," Robert said. "I did not mean to wake you." I was just trying to learn how the systems worked. I was trying to maintain the base the same way you have been maintaining it. You were doing my job, Keeper said. It was not an accusation. It was simply a statement of fact. You were being a guardian without knowing that was what you were doing. Robert stood up and walked across the chamber. His heart felt stronger now, less painful than it had been in months. The touch of Keeper's hand seemed to have helped in some way. He did not understand how or why, but he was grateful. I chose to come here to die, Robert said. But maybe I came here for a different reason. Maybe I came here because I needed to find something to do. Something that mattered. Something that would make my remaining time feel like it had value. And has it? Keeper asked. Yes, Robert said. He was surprised by how quickly he answered and by how true it felt. Yes, it has. Maintaining this place, trying to understand these systems, keeping this ancient station running. It has given me purpose. It has made me feel like my life still means something. Keeper was silent for a long time. The colors in its skin continued to shift and change, cycling through various shades and hues. Robert could see that the being was processing something, thinking about what he had just said. I have been alone for so long, Keeper finally said. I have been waiting for my creators to return, but they will not return. I think I have known this for a very long time. But I could not accept it. I could not stop waiting. You do not have to wait alone anymore, Robert said. The words surprised him as he spoke them, but he meant them. I am here. I can help you maintain the station. We can figure out these systems together. We can be guardians together. Keeper moved closer to Robert. It extended its long arm again, and this time Robert did not flinch. He reached out and grasped the being's hand. The contact was strange, the skin warm and soft despite its metallic appearance. It pulsed with energy, with life, with something that Robert could not quite name but could definitely feel. Then we will wait together, Keeper said. And perhaps together we will find a new purpose for this station. Perhaps we will find a new meaning for the word guardian. Robert nodded. He did not know what the future would hold. He did not know if his damaged heart could survive much longer. But for the first time in many years he felt like his life was no longer simply counting down to the end. It was beginning something new. Something that he could not have imagined, but something that felt right. The weeks that followed were unlike anything Robert had ever experienced. He stopped thinking about his approaching death and started thinking about the future instead. With Keeper's help, he began to understand the alien technology that surrounded him. Not all of it and not completely, but enough to start making real progress in restoring the station to its former condition. Keeper possessed knowledge that was millions of years old. It understood every system in the base, every circuit, every piece of machinery. But Keeper had never been able to repair the physical damage that time and neglect had caused. The being was designed for maintenance and oversight, not for hands-on repair work. This was where Robert's skills became invaluable. His mechanic's hands, worn and scarred from decades of work, could do the physical repairs that Keeper could direct. They worked together in a way that neither of them could have managed alone. Keeper would identify a problem and Robert would figure out how to fix it. Robert would suggest improvements, and Keeper would provide the technical knowledge to make those improvements possible. It was a partnership that felt natural, as if they had been designed to work together. One morning, as they were working on the main power distribution system, Keeper asked Robert a question that changed everything. Your species experiences a condition, Keeper said, its colors shifting to a soft gold as it spoke. A weakness in the heart muscle. A deterioration of the circulatory system. You told me that this condition is fatal for your people. Robert looked up from the panel he was working on. He had almost forgotten about his heart condition. He had been so focused on the work, so engaged in the task of restoration, that he had stopped thinking about his mortality. Yes, Robert said. The doctors on the colony told me I had about 2 years left. Maybe less. But that was several months ago. I should probably be getting worse by now, but I feel better than I have in years. Keeper was silent for a moment. Robert could tell that the being was accessing some kind of data, processing information from its vast internal systems. I can help you, Keeper finally said. The station's medical technology is advanced. It was designed to treat injuries and illnesses in many different species. I have studied your biology since you arrived. I can apply treatments that will slow your heart's deterioration. Perhaps stop it entirely. Robert's first instinct was to refuse. He had come to this place to die. He had accepted his fate. The idea of extending his life, of living longer than he had expected, was almost frightening. It meant uncertainty. It meant having to think about the future in ways he had stopped doing. But then he looked around at the chamber they were in. He thought about the work they had been doing. He thought about the partnership that had formed between him and this ancient alien being. He thought about how purposeful his days had become, how meaningful his life felt now. "Yes," Robert said. "Help me." Over the next few weeks, Keeper guided Robert through a series of treatments. Some of them involved sitting in strange chambers where lights of various colors washed over his body. Some of them involved wearing devices that felt like they were reading his entire physical structure, scanning him from the inside out. Some of them were uncomfortable. Some were even painful. But Robert persisted because he could feel the changes happening within his body. His breathing became easier. The constant ache in his chest faded away. His energy levels increased. He could work for longer periods without becoming exhausted. His hands, which had been trembling slightly due to his failing heart, became steady again. His mind, which had sometimes felt foggy and confused, became sharp and clear. After 6 weeks of treatment, Robert underwent a full medical scan that Keeper performed. The results were remarkable. His heart condition, which had been terminal, was now stable. Not cured but managed. Halted. The deterioration had stopped. The scans showed that Keeper's treatments had actually begun to repair some of the damage that years of illness had caused. "You will live," Keeper said simply. "For how long I cannot predict. Your species is still mortal. Your heart is still weaker than it should be. But you will not die soon. Not unless something unexpected happens." Robert felt something break open inside his chest. Not his heart this time, but something deeper. Something emotional. Tears ran down his weathered face, and he did not try to stop them. He had resigned himself to death. He had prepared himself for the end. And now, suddenly, he had been given back his life. "Why?" Robert asked. "Why did you do this for me?" Keeper's skin shifted to a warm, gentle blue. The being moved closer to Robert, and its massive form seemed somehow comforting rather than frightening. "Because you are no longer just a human who stumbled into my station," Keeper said. "You are my companion. My partner. You have given me something I have not had in millions of years. You have given me purpose. You have given me companionship. You have given me someone to work with, someone to talk to, someone to share this vast and ancient place with. Keeping you alive was not a difficult choice. It was the only choice that made sense." Robert stood up and embraced the being, wrapping his human arms around Keeper's vast form as much as he could. The alien's skin was warm and smooth, pulsing gently with energy. For the first time in his life, Robert did not feel alone. For the first time, he felt truly connected to another living being. "Thank you," Robert whispered. "Thank you for giving me a future." "We will build it together," Keeper replied. "This station. This place. This will be our home now. Not a tomb to wait in, but a home we maintain together. This is our new purpose." And Robert knew that Keeper was right. His life was no longer about waiting to die. It was about building something. About creating a partnership that spanned the gulf between species. About proving that purpose and meaning could be found in the most unexpected places, with the most unexpected companions. 5 years had passed since Robert Hayes first touched Keeper's hand in the vast central chamber of the alien base. He was no longer the bent, tired old man who had arrived seeking a place to die. The medical treatments had done more than just halt his heart's deterioration. They had reversed some of the damage that decades of hard work and illness had caused. His back had straightened. His hands had stopped trembling. His mind was sharper and clearer than it had been in 20 years. He moved through the corridors of the station with purpose and energy, a man reborn into a second life he had never expected to have. The base itself had also been transformed. What had once been a collection of corroded chambers filled with broken machinery was now a functioning station again. The power systems hummed steadily through restored conduits. The communication arrays, though they reached out into an empty galaxy, were functional once more. The water purification systems ran clear. The agricultural chambers, which Robert and Keeper had discovered buried deep beneath the main structure, now grew food from seeds that had been preserved for millions of years, waiting for someone to activate them. Robert and Keeper had become something entirely new. They were not quite employer and employee, not quite master and servant. They were partners. They worked together seamlessly, communicating through both spoken words and through the direct mind-to-mind contact that Keeper had taught Robert to use. Robert would suggest mechanical solutions, and Keeper would provide the theoretical knowledge and technical oversight. Together, they had reactivated systems that had been dormant for thousands of years. One day, as they were working on a particularly complex piece of equipment in one of the lower chambers, Robert paused and looked at his companion. Keeper's skin was a soft shade of gold, the color the alien always displayed when it was content and focused on its work. "Do you remember when I first arrived?" Robert asked. Yes, Keeper replied. You were dying. Your heart was failing. You came here because you believed you had nowhere else to go. I was giving up, Robert said. I thought my life was over. That all I had left was waiting for the end. I never imagined that I would find something like this. A purpose. A partner. A reason to keep living. Keeper's colors shifted to a warm blue. And I had been waiting alone for millions of years. I had almost forgotten what it meant to have purpose. I had become a machine simply going through the motions of maintenance. You reminded me why I was created. Not just to maintain a station but to be part of something. To be useful to someone. To be a guardian not of an empty building but of a partnership. Their conversation was interrupted by a sound that neither of them had heard in 5 years. An alarm. A detection signal. Robert's heart began to race, but not from fear or illness. It was the alarm that indicated incoming ships. They rushed to the communication chamber, a vast room filled with equipment that curved along the walls like organic growth. Keeper interfaced directly with the systems, and information flooded into Robert's mind through their connection. There were multiple ships approaching. Human ships. An entire expedition from the main colony. How long until they arrive? Robert asked. 2 days, Keeper responded. They have detected the energy signatures coming from this station. They're curious. They want to know what has happened here. Robert felt a mix of emotions. Part of him wanted to stay isolated with Keeper, to keep their partnership secret. But another part of him understood that this moment was inevitable. The colony would eventually discover what they had accomplished here. We will meet them, Robert decided. We will show them what we have built. Over the next 2 days, Robert and Keeper prepared. They cleaned the main entrance chamber, making it presentable. They ran diagnostics on all the systems to make sure everything was functioning at optimal capacity. Robert changed into clean clothes, his first new clothes in 5 years. He even took time to trim his hair and beard, which had grown long and wild during his time on the station. When the expedition finally arrived, they emerged from their ships to find Robert standing at the entrance of the alien base. But he was not alone. Beside him stood Keeper, towering and magnificent, its skin displaying a pattern of welcoming colors that shifted between blue and silver and gold. The lead expedition member, a woman named Catherine Walsh, stepped forward carefully. She had a weapon on her belt, though she made no move to reach for it. Her eyes moved between Robert and Keeper, trying to process what she was seeing. Robert Hayes? Catherine asked, surprise evident in her voice. We thought you were dead. We thought the isolation and the alien technology would have killed you by now. What has happened here? Everything, Robert said simply. He gestured toward Keeper. This is Keeper. An artificial guardian created millions of years ago by an ancient alien civilization. Keeper has been maintaining this station all this time, waiting for its creators to return. They never did. When I arrived 5 years ago, sick and dying, Keeper was alone. Now we maintain this place together. Catherine looked at the restored chambers visible beyond the entrance. She could see the lights, the functioning equipment, the clear evidence of careful maintenance and restoration. This is extraordinary, Catherine breathed. The technology here could revolutionize everything we know about engineering and medicine. Yes, Robert agreed. But this station is not a resource to be exploited. It is a home. It is a place where two beings from different worlds have found partnership and purpose. And if your colony is willing, we would like to share what we have learned here. We would like to work with you but on our terms. Keeper and I are the guardians of this place and that will not change. Catherine extended her hand. Robert shook it firmly. We can work with that, Catherine said. She looked at Keeper with curiosity rather than fear. I have to say, when we set out on this expedition, I never expected to find something like this. A human and an alien working together, maintaining an ancient station together. Robert smiled. It was genuine, deep, a smile that came from a place of true happiness. 5 years ago I came here to die alone. I never expected this either. But life is full of surprises. As the expedition members began to explore the station, Robert stood beside Keeper. The alien's massive hand rested gently on Robert's shoulder. They had found something rare and precious in this abandoned place. They had found home. They had found each other. And together they would face whatever the future held.